That's why I regularly, I think we're going to get Ethan Peck on here with the Center for Public Policy Research, but I regularly have,
Hi,
I,
Heather.
I, oh, is he, okay, I think he's here. Let me just welcome him to the show so we can continue this conversation. Um, there you are, Ethan.
It's great to
I
be
think,
back.
welcome back to the show. We had you on before talking about this topic about woke corporations. And you recently attended a shareholder meeting for Apple because you are a shareholder. And I have a quote, and I don't know if you just want to explain it. What you said to them, how their woke policies are actually racist. If you want to read this, because they're your words that I took, is that okay?
Yeah, sure. Um, DEI is overtly bigoted against men, white people, and straight people by falsely assuming that they are inherently and irredeemably racist and sexist oppressors.
Yeah, and it's like their racism is being turned upside down.
Yeah.
Why don't you talk about it? Tell me what you did. Why did you show up to this shareholder meeting at Apple?
Okay, so essentially, well, starting many years ago, but really during the George Floyd riots, a lot of companies took it upon themselves to incorporate critical race theory and gender theory into into their operations and the way that they do things under so-called diversity, equity, and inclusion. And even though a lot of the sort of hysteria around this stuff has died down since then, these programs remain in place. And so they violate the Civil Rights Act because when you hire somebody based on the color of their skin or by their sex, it's against the Civil Rights Act. It's immoral. It's illegal. It's discriminatory. And one of the only ways that we can press companies on breaking the law is already there, but they're breaking the law anyway. So one of the only ways that we can confront companies about this, since we're shareholders in Apple, we attend the meetings and we're trying to audit them. And we basically said to Apple, well, listen, if you're so proud of this, of these DEI policies, then let's open it up for an audit. Let's see if this actually breaks the Civil Rights Act, because we know that it does. And Apple rejected the audit.
So do you see that you'll bring that back up again? Like, is that something that can be readdressed and potentially up for audit again, or is it just killed now?
Well, there are certain restrictions from the SEC, which basically say that you can't file similar proposals year after year. You can file. There was also a racial audit that was passed last year, but from the left. So essentially, the SEC limits what those on the right can actually get through from a shareholder perspective. So what we have to do is we have to take left-wing proposals and we have to it's basically copy the language that has already gotten through the SEC's biased sort of filter. And then we use the leftist language so then we could say, hey, you already let this exact language get through from a proposal from the left. Only we shape it in a way that benefits, that is correct. The way what the left does is they file the same kind of racial equity audits, but they claim that the Apple's diversity, equity, and inclusion policies are just a fraud, and that they don't discriminate enough against whites, men, and straight people, and that they're not pushing enough women and LGBT people and black people into positions of power to create a perfectly equitable situation. And so we just take that exact proposal from the left and we flip it to try to make it so that Apple has to prove to shareholders that they actually are doing this.
Why do you find it so important that if you do not get a handle on this and they keep going to these, how they're with this DEI and they keep hiring that way, what is going to happen?
I think right now, our institutions, legal, state, universities, school systems, companies, they're all overthrown. They're shells of what they used to be. They're kind of like we call Republicans in name only rhinos. I feel like universities are education facilities in name only. They're woke churches. And so because all of the institutions are on the side of the woke, it's hard to get them to enforce already existing legislation that protects civil rights. I think that eventually, when the tide turns, then you're going to see a lot of lawsuits.
Can we maybe just define woke? Like, what is woke? You know, we
Sure.
hear this word thrown around all the time.
Right. That's something that the left will always like to say, like, you guys can't even define it. Woke is just being a good person and just caring about others. I'm going to credit James Lindsay, who's good in this area of really exposing the woke and their ideology. He says that woke is just awaken to a critical consciousness. And this is Paulo Freire's words, who was a critical educator from Brazil. And he basically kind of changed the way American schools are taught too. And critical consciousness just basically means a Marxist way about thinking about the world. So what it means to be woke is a person that's awakened to thinking critically about the world in a Marxist way. That's all it means.
It's like they're rewriting history, they're rewriting society, they have an agenda, and they are gunning for anything conservative or traditional because you see it almost looks like they're looking for ways to be victimized,
Absolutely.
to go after us. So,
Absolutely.
like, yeah, the rest of us are just living our life. Like I said at the beginning, what the heck? Why do you have an issue with Aunt Jemima? We were all doing just fine with her. And there
Yeah.
were no black people having an issue with her. It seems like, well, I don't want to start out something new because we're going to go to a break. But when we come back, I'm going to talk about how this all began, how they have the upper hand, and what we can do to turn it around. So don't go away.